And that was how I found out I had no job. I left and I was like, I'm done with real estate. This sucks. It was like she didn't know who I was. And it was the next day that I quit. I remember the day that kind of broke me. I can't do this. Like something just doesn't feel right. Social media makes this game look glamorous. You got a prospect for 3 years from now. Just find someone that believes in you and it'll all work out.
Welcome to the Freedom Property Podcast, the modern real estate brand empowering excellence. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back in the studio, and today I've got Nathan Simon all the way from All Properties Group. Welcome, brother.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
No worries.
You have a good Christmas holidays?
Mate, it was cracking. Spent time with the kids and stayed local in the end, but nice and quiet, which sounds like most people had anyway.
Got kids?
I think you got away, didn't you?
Yeah, we got away a couple of weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks off. It was awesome. You got kids, have you?
I do. I've got two young girls.
Yeah?
2 young girls.
How old are they?
One's nearly 6 and the other one's 1.5. So
yeah, good on you.
It's an interesting time.
Yeah, it changes your life when you have little kiddies, eh?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, and we'll talk obviously probably a bit about that anyway, but when I had my first, it changed genuinely everything for me. So it was pretty cool.
Nice. Well, for the viewers that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about you and your career and where you're at right now.
Yeah. I've had an interesting run back into real estate. So I mean, most people listening to this probably haven't heard of me before, but I actually was in real estate probably just under 10 years ago. I started in Woodridge, a little agency there. If you remember the Genman agencies back in the day, I don't know if they're still around or not, but I was what was classified as a home finder. It was my first entry level. This was after I went to university, thinking you had to do that to become a real estate agent, just by the way. So I did a full semester of university, spent $15,000 in HECS fees to get told that it was a 3-day course to become a real estate agent. So I quit and did that, right? So anyway, long story. But I worked as a home finder for a few months for a bloke that was paying, commissions was $100 if I brought in a listing.
Wow.
And that agent sold the listing.
Jeez.
So literally my job was to door knock in Woodridge, right? When paint the picture, I mean, I'd like to think I look young now, right? But 10 years ago, no beard. I looked like I just graduated primary school. Like it was bad, It was kind of scary, to be honest. And I remember I sat down with the director once and I was like $100, I get no control of this. So I'm literally giving the phone number saying they want to book an appraisal. Yeah. And I have to rely on someone else. I want to go and learn more. And he said to me, oh, tell you what, you list 100 properties in your first year, which when he says list, bring in 100 leads, right? He's like, and I'll pay you $100,000 and then you can start learning real estate. And I knew nothing. I was like, hell yeah, I can do that. Sweet as. And then I started making more phone calls and I listed 7, I think. I brought 7 leads in that got listed that week and I still didn't get paid for them. And I was like, that's a lot of money. Yeah. Like that's $700 for me. This doesn't seem right. So I quit that day and got a job as assistant for what was the top performing agent in Queensland for Ray White at the time, down the coast, probably where I was better suited. And probably had a pretty bad experience in the end from like a leadership perspective. Okay. I got in, was supposed to be a personal assistant because his had left. 2 months in, his PA decided to come back. And at the Christmas, when you have like your Christmas gatherings, right? Yeah. It was pretty small back then. It was just someone's backyard having a barbecue. And the person I was working for got up and said, this bloke is back working for me. And that was how I found out I had no job.
Oh, geez.
2 weeks' time. And that at 18 years of age, I'm now a solo agent, right? Been in the industry for 2 months. Yeah. I was like, all right. Now I had a crack. And at 18 years of age, so I 6 months in the industry I lasted at the time. Still sold 7 properties, but back then, I didn't age very much. So I left.
Maybe a blessing in disguise.
Blessing in disguise. I say it is. Yep. I think that what came next probably led to me to where I am now. But I left and I was like, I'm done with real estate. This sucks. It's dog eat dog. I'm getting out of it. And I went and sold cars. Yep. For a few years. And then returned 6 years, 7 years later.
Had that itch. You had to come back.
Had to come back.
It's always there in the back of your mind, you got to give it a proper crack, eh?
Yeah, I went to every training seminar possible back when I was 17, 18, right? So I had all this, what I thought was knowledge and skills back then. And then when you learn car sales, it was just the people came to you and you just had to get good at negotiating. You had to get good at closing, right? Yeah. And I became one of the top salespeople in Queensland for cars and got promoted at the time. That company, I was the youngest ever sales manager in the company's history and leading people. And then I got to the point where I had my first kid, right? And times change. Yeah. So we think, there's long hours in real estate. I know that, obviously. But in car sales, when you're committed, it was 6 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
But you're stuck.
Yeah.
So if nothing happens for 12 hours, you're still there.
Yeah.
And I got home, my daughter was maybe 3 or 4 months old, and I went to pick her up and just lost it. Like, it was like she didn't know who I was, and it was the next day that I quit.
Yep.
And took a step back in hours, did a 9-to-5 job.
Yep.
Very quickly found out that 9 to 5 is not. I don't think any real estate agent's designed to be a 9 to 5 worker, right? Because
telling you where to be, who to turn up, when to turn up. Yeah.
It just felt, I don't know, it just felt weird. And it was during COVID that this happened.
Yeah.
And I could work from home. And I reckon in that job that I was doing, and no offense to anyone that loves 9 to 5, right? But I could do that job in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I was that bored that I was going to my backyard and hand picking weeds from the grass. I had the best grass ever, right? Because I was going insane, and said to my wife, I was like, I've got to go do real estate. Like, I don't know what it is, but I just have to do that.
Yeah.
Did my online course.
Yeah.
I have my sister-in-law who actually is currently working for me, design a logo, a branding kit. I was going to open my own agency because I thought it'd be the easiest thing in the world.
Jeez.
Which I now own one, so I've realised it's not. And then Chris Gilmore, which from All Properties Group, everyone might know, when I left the industry back at 18, he messaged me and said, "You're an idiot. You've left too soon. Like, don't give up." But it was too late. I'd already left.
Yeah.
And he brings that up every time I talk to him. But he put up a job advert for a buyer's manager.
Yep.
And I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I've got a free ride back into real estate. I'll go work for him. He does really good volume. And then he told me the salary. And I was like, I just don't think I can do a salary. I was like, I can't do it. So I said, no, I'm out. Went home, messaged him. And I was like, I'm fully licensed, man. Like, can I join as a contractor? I'll keep working my full-time role as a salesperson, doing what I was doing, which is in construction, and I'll do real estate at the same time until I'm ready to quit. He's like, let's do it. And so I did that 7 months. So Queensland sales representative in the construction industry, and 9 to 5, traveling right out to like Diamantina, right out west. Actually sold my first property while I was out there. And then I'd come home from work, 5 o'clock, put the kids to bed, and I'd start cold calling from 7 p.m. till 8:30, and then I'd letterbox drop till 11 o'clock at night for 7 months. And
you're a hustler, bro.
And that's when I quit. So August 2021. And here we are. I now own an office on the Northern Gold Coast that opened in July last year. And we've now got, I think, 11 or 12 staff.
It's amazing, bro. It's a great story. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are at that point watching this right now that are probably really struggling in their own business. You know, it's a tough game, real estate. It's tough to get that wheel turning, you know, and you've been there. You've felt like you can't do this, and you've walked away from the industry. Like, let's talk about that moment. That would have been huge.
Yeah, I remember the day that kind of broke me when I was 18 at the time, right? And I look back now, and in my opinion, right, 18 to be a solo agent, I was living with my parents, never rented a home, let alone had the funds to buy a home, right? And I was sitting in a lounge room giving people advice on how to sell something they worked their whole lives for. Yeah. And I pitched on this property in Upper Coombe. I don't remember the street or the address, but I had no support at the time, can I just say. So I was told at the Christmas event that, hey, you're a solo agent as of January, good luck. So every appraisal I was on my own, every presentation I was on my own.
Tough.
And I looked like a kid, but I was sitting in this lounge room and I was giving it everything. I don't even know what I was saying. Like, I reckon I was just spitting some crap, right? I don't know if I can swear on this thing, but I was just spitting stuff. And I got a text message the day after, and he said, hey, Nathan, thank you so much. Like, we loved everything about you. In fact, of the 4 agents we got, I think you were the best of all of them, but I can't get over the edge. And I was like sitting there, and I was my now wife, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, something just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And that's what broke me. Yeah. But when I look, I made many mistakes back then too. Like, I was rushing. Yeah. I've got a lot of obviously new team members now. Yeah. And I rushed my way through it. Like, I wanted so bad to be a real estate agent that I didn't take that time to just relax. Yep. I would have earned a lot more money if I did that. Can I just say? Yep. But and learn the process. And like when I was kicked out of that, I could have found another agent to work for quite easily. But I had this big ego that I just thought I could do it.
Yeah. It's good to have that a little bit, because you've got to have that confidence. You've got to be prepared to, make the phone calls, back yourself, get over there, get in front of these people and have a proper crack at it.
Yeah.
But it is hard when you're young and you're 19 and 18, you got no runs on the board, and this is someone's biggest asset that they're trusting you with, and there's someone sitting across the room from them now that's sold 50 properties, and, they're going to lean towards that, the more experienced agent, and for the younger agents that are watching this, we do that in Freedom as well. And I'm not sure where you're at with your new guys, but I always go with them to the listing presentation at the start, because 100%. That first initial year or two in real estate is very, very difficult, and picking up the listings the hardest part.
100%, yeah.
So you got to take someone with experience. And looking back, if you had that, maybe you would have been
probably could have closed some deals.
Yeah,
probably could have closed some deals. I mean, I look back and I sold 7 houses at the time, but back then the average sale price that I was working in was $350,000, $400,000. The owner of that business, it was his son that was the leading agent, so it was not easy to compete with, right? And that probably led me to the fact that I didn't want to join an agency. At the end, I wanted to do it myself, because there was things that were happening there that probably isn't normal in the industry, but for me was all I knew. Yeah. Coming into the industry now, there's some amazing leaders in this space, which is good to see. Probably wasn't back then. But,
I think the best agents generally want to help people, everything is about trying to give back, not just to the agents around you, but your community. It's to your team members. It's, you got to support everyone if you want to do well.
Yeah. And look, prospecting is an interesting thing, right? It's the one thing that we all have to do, but newbies don't understand. And I got, people that come up to me all the time, like, want to be a real estate agent, Like, great, why? It just looks really good online. And we all see the amazing stuff we post, and everyone talks about it. Every podcast talks about it.
Yeah.
Social media makes this game look glamorous.
Yeah.
And they forget all the crap that happens in the background to get the glamour, right?
Yeah, and they're watching people that have been in the game for such a long time as well, usually. They're not looking at someone that's been in the game for 6 months, 12 months and saying, oh my God, what a great lifestyle they're living.
Yeah.
They're looking at people that have been in 15, 20 years who are just killing it, selling all these amazing properties, who've got amazing support around them, spending shitloads of money on themselves every year.
Yeah.
And it looks like real estate could be easy.
Yeah.
But as you know, you got to put yourself out there, and you got to do the hours, you got to do the time.
You got to do the hours. Every newbie goes through it, right? I got a guy part of my team, an amazing guy. He's going to be an amazing agent. But one of the first things he said, when he started seeing what I was doing in the background, was like, I wish I had your phone, because it just doesn't stop these days, right? And I was like, we forget the times that I was door knocking and letterbox dropping 11 o'clock at night while everyone was watching State of Origin and I'm freezing cold outside. You forget the times that I was doing all of these different things that you haven't done yet, right? And 3 years down the track, which is where I'm at now, it starts to flow, right? You get repeat clients, people start to call you, but this is probably the difference in prospecting now. Back then, all I wanted was listings now, right? And when you're in that position where you get thrown in the deep end, that's all everyone wants, and I get that completely. What I'm trying to instill in my guys is that you got to prospect for 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? Forget about just focusing on people that are on the market that might be expiring soon. You got to focus on them a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you just do that, your business will go broke in 3-4 months.
Absolutely.
Because it dries up.
You got to play the long game.
Play the long game.
Yeah. You're just getting to know people that own houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
One day they're going to, reach out and they're going to be there to support you like you've supported them.
Exactly.
But there's too much of that, and it is hard. I feel for the agents, when they're first getting started and they really need a listing, and it's you can feel it on them, can't you? You can, and the sellers can feel that desperation as well. And you don't want to have that. You don't want to be ringing someone to try and get some money off of them. It's the last place you want to be. So
customer service comes and swings you roundabouts. Right?
Yeah. Real estate agents, what if you had a course that could give you all of the tools needed to absolutely kill it in 2025? I've built this course. I've been in real estate for 20 years. I've listed thousands of properties, and I want to give this course to you now. I used to sell this course for $2,000 a pop, and now I'm going to give it to the first 100 people for absolutely free. It's yours for the taking. Snap it up. Why did you want it so bad? Why were you working so hard?
Well,
what
the kids help. Can I just say?
Motivation,
but when I left, I was on a good wicket, earning a really good wage. You get commissions, and it was the easiest thing ever, right? What I was doing to earn 6 figures, but 6 figures doesn't do anything for you anymore, right? And back then, I've seen a psychologist now, so I know there's a lot more deep-seated stuff that causes that drive. But for me, it was I've now got kids. Growing up, I had nothing, right? So I'd never been on a holiday in my life until I turned 19. Never been on a plane at that point, to be fair. I didn't have good schooling. I didn't have these extra little things. And it wasn't because I didn't have bad parents, but things were tough back then.
Yep.
And having a kid now, I was like, I just want to make sure, at the time it was one, that she has everything, that she has everything that she possibly wants. We were getting married the year that I started in real estate. And I was like, I don't want to look back at this wedding and think that I missed out on something.
Yep.
Looking back now, I kind of wish I did. But anyway, that's a long story. So we wanted to do everything we could for that.
Yeah.
And it just worked, right? I just have always been, like, my first job was as soon as you get 14, 9 months, right? The first job, sweet, worked at Macca's. And I always wanted extra hours. I was really that guy that walked up to the manager and be like, can I stay? Like, do you anyone to go home early? And I was like, hiding.
Yeah.
And the whole way through, I always wanted to progress. And it's just, I don't know, just been inbuilt into me.
Was it for the money drive, or was it the achievement drive, or what was it?
Always money back then.
Yeah.
Always money back then. It's different now.
Yeah.
But back then it was all about money.
And there's nothing wrong with that. When you're young, like, you should want to make as much money as you possibly can. You should want the things that you should want. Yeah. It does change, obviously, as you get older, because you want to be, established. You want to affect people's lives better. You want to help people more. It's you start to really care a lot more, don't you?
Yeah. So and look, when you get married, there's another person's opinion on that hustle, right? So, my wife keeps me very grounded these days. Back when I was hustling for money, she's like, the money, like, what do you mean the money?
Yeah. And
it took me a long time to be able to explain that to her, what I really felt. And it wasn't the money, it was the experiences it buys. It was just being secure that I never, I've spoken to a psychologist now, right? So if anyone's not done that, can I just say I spent a lot of my life saying that shrinks, they're probably not called shrinks, but they're not something I'd ever speak to. Yeah. It's probably the best thing I ever did last year.
Yeah, they're great listeners, and they ask you good questions.
Mate, you find out so much stuff that you know that, like, makes sense, right? Then you go, all right, cool, worth my money. Yeah. Like, I learned so much about my childhood that is now making sense as to why I do this. And I think it was probably the biggest change I made. And, I had my biggest year ever last year as a solo agent, and opened an office and did all this sort of stuff. And I'm not going to say that was the key reason, but I can guarantee it made a difference.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did something similar last year with Corey from Set the Standard. He was on a recent podcast we did, and he runs a men's group, and it's I did that most of last year, and that was really awesome. Like, you really get to know who you are. You figure out, like, you're the problem, bro.
Yeah, 100%.
It's always you, isn't it? Like, you're thinking, you're like, oh, no. Then you're like, oh, you come back and there it is. And, so that's what's happening here. Let me go and cuddle myself as a 5-year-old there. And,
exactly right.
Do that stuff.
It was interesting to find out what was causing, or not causing, but driving certain things. And now you know that, right? Yeah. And you can get rid of that drive and turn that drive into something that's good, not from a negative place. Yeah. And that's been a lot of fun.
So good. So you've really stepped everything up in the last 12 months, opening your own office. That's a huge step. So talk to me about some of the challenges there.
Yeah. So look, I joined All Properties Group 2021. And I said to Chris, I didn't want to sell in Logan, right? I always wanted to be the Gold Coast. And I've got to say that breaking into an area that there's no brands, despite the amazing brand in the area that All Properties Group was not easy.
No.
And I found out very quickly that during listing presentations, the competition was using it, right? Everything was Browns Plains for me. Yeah. And I'm not fancy from the Gold Coast listing, but Gold Coast, we're all snobs right down there, right? We don't want to be associated with any difference. So I was having that come up, and I said to Chris that we have to do something in the future. Might not be now. And classic me wanted to rush and do it. The day that I became an agent, I was like, got to open an office. And I've been very lucky to have an amazing business partner that's slowed me down, right? It's not slowed me down, but allowed me to do what I needed to do to get to the point where it made sense. Yeah. And 2025? No, 2023, myself and my two people part of my team at the time went, we're going to do this at some point soon. Yeah. And so we found this tiny little office space, which was 20 square meters. It had a 6-desk workstation in it. And 2 of those desks were taken up by a printer in like settlement gifts and brochures, right? So we had 4 of us in the end, by the end of it, working in this office. And that's when Chris and I officially formed All Properties Gold Coast, which is July last year. Yeah. And straight across the road, a 200 square meter office space came up.
Awesome.
And I was like, now's the time. Let's just jump on it. And that's kind of how it began. And the challenges that have come from that is more than around staff. Yeah. And the costs involved, as you know, right?
Absolutely.
As someone that's never done this before. The costs add up very quickly.
Yep.
So finding and recruiting people to keep that going has been the hardest bit.
And then you've got to offer the agents a good deal. You've got to offer them good systems, good software. You've got to offer them good marketing, good leadership. And then you've got to keep them. And then you've got to train them. And then you've got to look after them. You've got to,
100%.
deal with all their problems. And now, you say, there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it.
An office owner. And then it takes you away from what you're doing best sometimes, which is selling property.
Yes.
So, but it will position you. It will give you some credibility in the marketplace too. So there's benefits, there's positives to both. And
for me, the biggest issue we had was the difference in the branding, right? So now we've got All Properties Group Gold Coast. We're getting more incoming leads than we've ever had before down the coast.
Of course.
It's made a big difference for us. Staff, still not easy to find in the beginning, as any probably new office owner would know.
Yep.
You've got some amazing agents out there that you're competing with that you'd love to work for you, but you've got no runs on the board to showcase. So that build is a lot of fun.
Yep.
But
the newer agents are good. Like I've been the similar sort of boat where we weren't necessarily a big brand, Freedom Property, and we're still not a massive brand, but we're a growing brand. So we haven't got the name that a Ray White or an LJ Hooker or these other big brands have got. So like, why would I go to a Freedom Property? So I still find that a lot, when I'm speaking to agents, and I'm like, we haven't got that brand recognition behind us, but these new people that have come to us, I get a lot of these youngsters come, and when they come and then they put our systems and processes in play, and they've got me there supporting them at their listing presentations, and then their business grows, and then we build that again and we go again, and it's a longer journey. It takes a bit more time, but what I've found is that these people will stay loyal to you because you've helped them so much at the start. So I reckon, like, even going for some of those newer, younger agents, especially the ones that like, if they don't last, they don't last. Like if you're not prepared to come in and work your ass off and make 150 to 100 plus calls a day, once you finish that, go and door knock these people that you think are coming on in the next couple of weeks. If you're not prepared to do the basics, pretty quickly, and people just go. So you just keep going, keep finding, and you're just gonna find a diamond there, and then you're just gonna find another one, and it's just gonna keep going. So
look, I think information is so easily available as well. So for me, right, I used to listen to podcasts on how to sell properties, and now my podcasts are mainly around people in our space at leadership. So obviously the Freedom Podcast, for example, is one that I genuinely watch quite a lot of. I get a lot of content from yourself, and get a lot of content from Josh Teslin and people that do a really good job in the leadership space now, because I love all that what can I give the people joining my business that helps them for the future. And every single person that owns a real estate office is going out and saying, we want to do something different. We want to do something different. And I'm going to copy and paste, right? Because I want to do something different as well. But it's becoming, you've got to find, I guess, what suits your values and then instill that onto your guys. And it's up to them if they work. Right?
Yeah. Like you can provide them the whole world, but if they're not prepared to do the work, then, they're never going to last anyway, So, it's, people are personalities as well. It's people may not want to deal with that person because of their personality, but that's okay. You just got to find their people. You got to find their community. You got to find what works for them.
100%.
So your points of difference when you're opening this office, you got to find something to drag them there.
Yeah, and look, exactly what you said before, right? You've got to be there for them, and I've recognized that pretty quickly. That if I'm going to have to get new people, which I'm getting new people on board, I need to be there. So I'm at any listing presentations that they go to, any appraisals. And if I'm not, I've now set up my team that they're qualified and skilled enough to jump in. So some of the guys that have been working with me, I had 2 promotions in December in my team and an extra staff member. So they're all qualified now to help out where I can't. So, and if I'm trying to help a new staff member, they can go do the appraisals and the listings and the open homes and the stuff to keep my business running while I help these guys build theirs.
Definitely.
And for me, that's been the most important part. It's not always easy, as you know. Like things happen, you get busy. I've got my biggest listing month ever in January of launches. Plus, I got 5 new staff members that joined in January, so it's not been the easiest time from an hours perspective. But
so you said you're launching 15 properties in January.
15 in January. That's without signing anything new in January too.
It's amazing, bro. That's awesome. Yeah, what a start for All Properties Gold Coast. They're going to get noticed pretty quickly, so that big orange signs that you got there, and that it really stands out, the marketing that you do. So what is your point of difference with marketing? What are you actually going for?
That's a very good question. So for me, for the Gold Coast, we're going for, that Gold Coast laid back vibe, right? We don't take ourselves too seriously. We're not that pure saturation vibe either. So, we're not smashing letterboxes every 2 days, for example, and doing stuff like that. We want to be recognized for who we are and who our personalities are.
Yep.
And the end of the year for me, which is probably why we've had such a good start, is always the most important time. One, because most real estate agents start switching off.
Yep.
And most people forget real estate agents over Christmas, right? So we want to make sure that we have a cracking start to every single year, and we do that in November, December.
Yep.
We're in our 4th year this year, but we just ran our 3rd annual Christmas movie in the park. It's all about the community. It's something we do free of charge for anyone that lives locally to come along.
Yep.
This year we had 3,000 people there, right?
Yep.
So we had fireworks and food trucks and pony rides, and Santa came and did a concert. We had all these different things and fireworks to end the night that people left that, which was the couple days before Christmas, and we're the last thing they saw. We're the last photos on their camera roll with their kids in front of a pony or having ice cream with our fireworks.
Yeah, that's cool.
We gave out branded beer and branded wine to any of our past clients or hot people that we're working on, right, that want to list in the future, so that Christmas Day, they're friends. They got this bottle of wine with my logo on it. Who gave you that? My real estate agent, and opens up conversations.
Yep.
Where we end the year with a memory bang.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think because we haven't met in person before. We've met briefly. We said hello a few times and had a quick chat here and there, but we've never sat down, had like a proper conversation before. I've on the socials, as you do with heaps of agents.
Yeah.
And some constructive criticism for you, or some constructive advice. Well, I think like your personality right now is way better than you perceive on social media.
Okay.
No, really. Like you are really switched on. You're a smart guy. Really way more laid back than what I thought you were going to be.
Yeah, cool.
So like the vibe that you give off on socials isn't necessarily the same vibe as who you are.
Yeah.
I reckon you need to do more video. I reckon you need to be talking to your customers more so they can really understand who you are as a person, because you're a good lad.
Yeah.
You're a good guy. You got 2 kids. Like you're a trustworthy person.
Yeah.
Like you know what you're talking about. You're committed. You sound like you want to make this work.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of person as a seller that I'd want to be talking to. So whereas I think some of your content comes across as quite young.
Yeah.
Like, and I reckon you can just by doing more of it, telling your story more and talking to people more, they're going to be like, this guy's cool.
Yeah.
They're going to connect to you so much quicker.
It's funny. We're going through a bit of a social shift anyway. Hopefully people have started noticing that on my Insta over the last period of time. But I had a meeting last year, ended up listing the property, a couple $1 million. And he said, we were on your social media. And to be honest with you, before we met you in person, I thought you were a bit of a wanker. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I thought I was, just doing some good stuff, some good content. He said, I don't know. He's like, your videos, the way you were speaking to camera, you just sounded like a wanker. And so I didn't want to meet with you. And then I met you at an open home and you seem really cool. So same thing.
Yeah, I wasn't saying you're a wanker. I didn't think you're a wanker or anything, but like, I just think like this vibe that you're getting here, like you need to do more of this, because people, if you start to, have that laid back vibe and tell people about how much you care about them and how much you care about your business and your family and you're supporting your people around you, and all you want to do is just help people that are like-minded people, and like that kind of vibe is like, if you just keep doing more of that, you're going to kill it, bro.
No,
you'll kill it. It's video is everything. It's telling your story and just seeing who wants to come to you. Like you can train your guys to make 50, 100 phone calls and motivate them to do that every day. But, whilst they're doing that, they should slow down and try and do some behind the scenes sort of stuff. Like we try to do the vlogs and, like things like that, just... And what I tend to find is these days, I personally need to make many calls anymore, because I just get people call me because they either have picked me as their agent because they watched the video and they thought, oh, he's nice, that sort of thing, But yeah, that would be my thing for you, I reckon. Just off the vibe that you're giving me today, I'm like, this guy's a proper legend. Like, you need to show that off more.
No, I agree. It's funny. I watch a lot of your recruitment videos, especially. I get the same vibe. It's something that's on the books for this year. And last year was a bit of a whirlwind from opening the office and recruiting and obviously what was going on. It was like, I've got to get past January, get these guys set up, and then watch this space. There's lots to come out. There's lots to do. We got big goals.
So much to do.
So big goals. I got an amazing team of people behind me that have just stepped up this year. To make sure that I can keep doing what I do as not just an agent, but as a leader in the business, right?
Yeah.
And that allows me to be a dad as well.
So good, bro. So good. Yeah, this is it's going to be an exciting one to watch. I reckon you can make this happen. You've got everything it takes, and as your team grows as well, it will become easier for you, especially if you can get some people in your team to really start performing, because then you will look even stronger to the market, and you're going to do really well.
100%. We've got a couple of staff that their first listings launched this weekend, so I'm excited to get them on the boards. A lot of work's gone into it for them, so we've got a big couple of weeks ahead. And
nice. I think let's finish the podcast on talking to that agent that's about to quit.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you going to say to this person?
Firstly, don't do it, right? I think that if I look back, and while I can say now that it was the best thing I did, leaving the industry, because hindsight's everything, just find someone that believes in you and it'll all work out, right?
Yeah.
Because, if I look back, I remember 2022, January, I'd hired 2 staff in that time, my sister-in-law and then Kerry, who currently works for me still, who's been promoted this year. And I had lost, I don't know how many listings in a row in January. It was probably 16 listings, right? I was killing, and I was on the verge of firing everyone, right? And all my staff know this. It was probably the toughest time that I've had in this industry. And I sat down with good people, so Chris and obviously our sales manager as well, and we had lunch and we had to make some changes, right? I flew down to Sydney, went to the Josh Teslin conference. I learned a heap and managed to keep all of our staff, came back and had one of our biggest years yet. Just sit down with someone that believes in you. And if you don't, look, you got to believe in yourself first, right?
Yeah.
But this is a game that's going to knock you down more times than it brings you up. Just get through it. It's fucking worth it.
Absolutely.
Excuse my French.
Yeah. Every day is crazy in real estate. It's, you get into this business and you feel like you're banging your head against the wall some days, but tomorrow could be the best day you've ever had.
It's seriously, the roller coaster of emotions never stop. Yesterday, I had one of the craziest negotiations of my life, and I won't give too many details about it, but I had this one property. I literally signed the contract the minute before I walked into here, finally, and we had 5 buyers in the running, and the second best offer. I called her that morning and I said, look, you got to increase. And she was a bit rattled, and she said, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm going to increase. Give me some time. My first day of chemotherapy right now. And I was like, this is the worst time to be doing this. I'm so sorry. But as a real estate agent, you work for the seller, right? You have to unfortunately make these calls. And I remember we ended up having to go back to her again that afternoon and say, you got to increase again. I ended up selling her the property in the end. But I called the seller before and I was like, look, this is one of the weirdest positions I've ever been in, right? I want to call her and get her to pay more money, but I want you to know this is very sensitive right now.
Yeah.
Give us some time. And, I ended up making the call, and it was the most awkward negotiation phone call I've had in my life, because this person's just been literally taken through the ringer that day.
Yeah.
We got to call her last night and say, hey, this is the wildest day of your life. First day of chemo, you just bought yourself your dream home. Congratulations. And signed the contract 5 minutes ago.
So good.
It's one of the weirdest industries you'll ever get into.
Absolutely.
But if you turn this into a lifestyle, it'll be the best lifestyle you ever live.
There you go. Thank you so much for coming in, brother.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Great podcast. Legend.
Great to finally sit down with you.
Thank you.